In the stillness of solitude, something ancient begins to stir. Without distraction, without noise, without the pull of others' desires, the mind begins to reveal its hidden layers. What you discover there is not always comfortable, but it is always real. To walk alone is to walk through your own fire, and in doing so, to become forged into something unbreakable. In the company of others, strength is often borrowed. Their energy can mask your own fatigue. Their words can drown out your inner voice, but when you are alone, there is nothing left to lean on but what you have built within. This is where the true test begins, not of how much you can endure in the world, but how much of yourself you are willing to confront in the silence. A blacksmith does not shape steel with whispers and comfort. He places it in flame, hammers it with force, cools it, and repeats. Solitude functions the same way. The pressure, the repetition, the confrontation with your own mind and body, all of it shapes you if you stay long enough in the fire. Those who escape the forge too soon remain soft, still shaped by the world instead of shaping themselves. The mind will resist this process. It will crave noise. It will reach for distraction, for the comfort of voices, for the warmth of companionship. But every time you deny that urge, you reclaim another piece of your power. Slowly, the mind becomes a tool instead of a tyrant, and your emotions become weather that you observe rather than storms that consume you. In solitude, you begin to hear your own breath again. You begin to notice your posture, the rhythm of your thoughts, the quality of your attention. These things, once lost in the clutter of daily interaction, now rise to the surface. You begin to understand what it means to truly be with yourself, completely, without filter, without mask. When no one is watching, discipline becomes pure. You no longer move to impress. You no longer act to be praised. The form, the breath, the stillness, these become your companions. Solitude becomes your dojo, your mountain, your mirror. It reflects both your weaknesses and your growth, and it does not lie. Each day spent alone sharpens a different edge. Patience is forged in repetition. Clarity is formed in silence. Endurance is built through presence. These are not skills granted by others. They are earned in the quiet, refined in the dark, carried like sacred weapons within you. And so, the forge remains open, the fire burns, the anvil waits quietly for the one who does not run from themselves, but instead chooses to step in, to be shaped, to be strengthened, to become that which can stand even when all else falls away. Self-reliance begins where imitation ends. As long as you follow without question, as long as your decisions are echoes of another's voice, your life is not your own. To become sovereign within, one must learn to stand in clarity, unshaken by praise, untouched by criticism. It is a path that starts in questioning everything you've borrowed, beliefs, fears, ambitions, and deciding which to keep and which to release. Dependence is a comfort disguised as a chain. It binds quietly with small permissions, letting others think for you, feel for you, validate you. The more you outsource your peace, the more fragile you become. When others control your calm, they also control your chaos. The art of self-reliance is to break that exchange, to carry your own peace, hold your own rhythm, and create your own compass. Inner sovereignty does not mean isolation from the world. It means the world no longer dictates your movement. Like a rooted tree, you can bend in the wind, but your direction is your own. You are no longer moved by fear of vanity. Your center is internal, and from that place you speak, decide, and act. This strength is not loud. It does not need to prove itself. The self-reliant person does not convince others. They convince themselves quietly, day after day, in choices unseen and disciplines unfelt by the outside world. They walk in alignment with their values, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. The journey to self, Self-reliance is often lonely because it requires withdrawing from noise to hear your own guidance. People may misunderstand. They may say you've changed, but transformation often appears strange to those who have not yet begun their own. Sovereignty is earned in solitude, sharpened in trial, and revealed in consistency. Relying on others for strength is like drinking from a borrowed cup. It may quench you today, but tomorrow it may not be there. When strength is generated within, it flows without interruption. It is accessible in moments of crisis, available when all else falls silent. This is the strength that does not break when support systems fail, because it never depended on them to begin with. Your thoughts become your advisors, your actions become your law, your character becomes your kingdom. And within that inner kingdom, there is no higher ruler than presence, discipline, and clarity. You answer not to noise or urgency, but to purpose and principle. That is the language of inner rule. And so, self-reliance becomes not a rejection of the world, but a mastery of self within it, a quiet revolution where the throne is not external recognition, but inner command. Loneliness is the ache of absence, but aloneness is the presence of self. Many confuse the two because both happen in the absence of others, yet their nature could not be more different. Loneliness arises when we resist our own company, when the silence feels hollow. Aloneness, however, is the fertile soil where awareness deepens, where you sit not with emptiness, but with everything you've neglected to hear. To feel lonely is to long for something outside to complete what feels missing inside. But the one who knows aloneness has turned inward and found that nothing essential is absent. In solitude, the noise of the world fades, and what remains is not a lack but a mirror. What you see there may at first be discomfort, but with time it becomes clarity. Loneliness begs for distraction, it fears stillness. Aloneness invites stillness, it welcomes the undisturbed moment. The lonely seek to fill a void. The one who is alone seeks to understand it. This distinction is the beginning of transformation, not of the situation, but of the self within the situation. Nothing outside has changed, yet everything inside begins to shift. When you sit in silence long enough, the sharp edges of loneliness begin to dull. What once felt like an absence becomes an invitation to feel, to reflect, to breathe without rushing. This is where aloneness becomes sacred, not because it is easy, but because it is honest. There is no mask in solitude, only the face you have yet to meet. Aloneness is the first gate through which the seeker must walk. It is not a punishment, but a training ground. It teaches you to hear your thoughts without judgment, to feel your emotions without escape. It demands that you stay not physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It teaches presence, the rare art of being fully where you are. In loneliness, we often look outward, for attention, for affection, for assurance. In aloneness, we turn inward. We begin to mother ourselves, to father our inner child, to become both the question and the answer. It is here we realize that much of what we sought in others was simply a reflection of what we had not yet awakened within. Aloneness sharpens perception. You begin to notice the weight of your breath, the patterns of your thoughts, the subtle pull of your desires. You begin to understand what influences you, what drains you, what nourishes you. And with this clarity, you no longer move out of hunger, but out of alignment. So aloneness becomes not a space to escape from, but a place to return to again and again, not because the world is unkind, but because your presence within it must be rooted in the presence you first cultivated in silence. Discomfort is not your enemy. It is your first teacher. It appears when the familiar is left behind and the unknown begins to unfold. Most people avoid discomfort because it feels like failure, but in truth, it is a sign of expansion. When you willingly enter discomfort, you signal to yourself that you are no longer controlled by the need for ease, but guided by the pursuit of growth. The road to independence is not paved with softness. It is uneven, unpaved, and often walked alone. You feel every step, every doubt, every hesitation. But it is through this raw experience that your character begins to emerge. Strength does not arrive wrapped in comfort. It arrives through effort, challenge, and the steady decision to keep moving despite resistance. True independence is not granted. It is earned through trials, and trials are rarely pleasant. They test your patience, your resolve, your clarity. But what discomfort strips away is illusion. You begin to see what is real, your actual capacity, your patterns of avoidance, your deepest fears. To walk through this fire is to purify your intentions, to distinguish between what is essential and what is merely convenient. Discomfort trains the nervous system. It builds tolerance not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. You learn to breathe through chaos, to stay steady in uncertainty. The one who can remain present within discomfort holds the key to their own freedom. They are no longer ruled by fear or fatigue, but by commitment to purpose. Avoiding discomfort leads to dependency. You begin to rely on others to carry you through the difficult moments, to soothe you, to fix what you have not yet faced. But when you lean into discomfort instead of escaping it, you discover you are capable of enduring far more than you believed. And with every trial passed, another layer of dependency falls away. Discomfort forces you into awareness. In comfort, you can drift. In discomfort, you must be awake. Every breath becomes conscious, every movement intentional. This sharpens your presence and reconnects you to your instincts. You begin to trust yourself, not because you are always correct, but because you have proven that you can face challenge and stay aligned. What once scared you becomes your training ground. Cold becomes cleansing. Failure becomes feedback. Solitude becomes sanctuary. And slowly, independence becomes not just a word, but a lived reality. You are no longer waiting for someone to rescue you. You are learning to rescue yourself with discipline, attention, and inner strength. And so the doorway remains open, not dressed in comfort, but in the harsh welcome of honest effort, inviting only those who are ready to earn their freedom one uncomfortable step at a time. The body is your first companion. Not your phone, not your thoughts, not even your breath. Before you could speak or understand words, the body already knew. It listened, responded, reacted. It holds memories that the mind has forgotten and signals that thoughts cannot always decode. To ignore the body is to ignore the very vessel through which you experience this life. It wakes with you in the morning, and it bears your fatigue at night. It carries the weight of your emotions, absorbs the tension of your choices, and reflects the quality of your inner discipline. When the mind wanders, the body remains honest. It does not lie, it simply responds. If you neglect it, it becomes heavy, stiff, and distant. If you train it, it becomes light, fluid, and precise. Most people treat the body like a machine, only attending to it when it malfunctions. But the body is not here to serve your commands blindly. It is a mirror, a partner, a teacher. It teaches patience when healing is slow, focus when movement requires precision, and humility when limitations appear. The more you listen, the more it reveals. Each breath is a conversation. Each movement is a message. When you train consciously, the body becomes a tool of presence, the push of a muscle, the rhythm of a step, the stillness of a posture. All of these become practices in awareness. In this way, the body becomes a gate into the now, not something to be conquered, but something to be aligned with. If the mind is scattered, the body reveals it. If emotions are unspoken, the body expresses them. Tension in the shoulders, unease in the stomach, fatigue in the spine. These are not obstacles, but invitations. Invitations to realign, to slow down, to return. The one who ignores these signals will be forced to listen through injury or illness. The one who observes early, adjusts early. Treat the body like a sacred structure. Feed it with quality, not indulgence. Move it with respect, not punishment. Rest it with intention, not laziness. The body responds to how you treat it. Every act of care becomes a form of self-respect. Every discipline you uphold through your body is an investment into your longevity, clarity, and resilience. In solitude, when all else is stripped away, the body remains. You walk with it, train with it, breathe with it. It becomes your rhythm keeper, your silence breaker, your grounding force. When you master your body, even partially, you reclaim a part of yourself, mastery. You move deliberately, you stand steadily, you act decisively. And so the body, once seen as a tool or burden, is revealed as a companion, a presence that has never left you, only waited to be acknowledged and refined through awareness, discipline, and care. Purpose is the inner flame that burns without the need for fuel from others. When you move with purpose, the longing for constant company begins to fade, not because people become less important, but because their presence is no longer a requirement for your movement. You are no longer waiting for support to begin. You begin because you must. When purpose is absent, time becomes heavy, days feel hollow. We search for distractions, for entertainment, for companionship to fill the void of direction. But once purpose is awakened, time becomes a path. Each day is no longer something to survive, but something to engage with, shape, and carry forward with intention. Those without purpose often crave validation, applause, or reassurance. They need others to reflect back meaning. But when you are anchored in purpose, your meaning is already known. You don't need to be seen. You need to act. You don't need company to feel worthy. You feel worthy because your steps are aligned with something larger than comfort. Purpose transforms loneliness into focus. The same silence that once felt unbearable now becomes the space where ideas grow. The solitude you once tried to escape now becomes the workshop where your vision sharpens. Purpose replaces the ache for someone else with the pull toward what you were born to do, shape, or express. People may still come, and their presence may still be valued, but they are no longer the source of your center. You are not lonely because you are without them. You are full because you are with your path. Whether the room is full or empty, you are not shaken. You walk the same pace, carry the same rhythm, keep the same vow. There is a clarity that comes when your energy is no longer scattered in the pursuit of belonging. You belong to your purpose. You are claimed by it, directed by it, and that clarity frees you from the noise. You're no longer pulled by opinions or trends. You move according to an internal compass that does not lose signal when others grow silent. Purpose brings structure. You begin to shape your days with care. Sleep becomes preparation, not escape. Training becomes devotion, not obligation. Speech becomes intentional, not careless. In this rhythm, external company becomes optional, not essential. You welcome others, but you no longer need them to function, to feel whole, or to find peace. And so purpose does not remove others from your life. It simply removes your dependency on them, allowing connection to be chosen from fullness rather than sought from emptiness. Let me know if you'd like to gather all 6 speeches into one structured compilation or create a guided audio version with meditation cues.